Hello and welcome to Hi-Point Music's Gear Reviews. In this episode of the Tone Zone, I'm going to show you why you would use a product called a true bypass loop. Not all pedals are true bypass, and by that I mean that some pedals, when you plug into them and when you turn them off, as in the effect is not activated, you lose a little bit of frequency response, a little bit of level, and you can sometimes get a little bit of noise just by them being off. These pedals tend to be pedals that have either a FET, like a transistor-based switching system, or older style, more vintage pedals that are just wired so that no matter when you turn them on or off, your guitar is always connected to the input of the circuit board. This was never a problem for the likes of our greatest guitar heroes, our Jimi Hendrixes, our Jimmy Pages, our Roy Buchanans. It was never really a problem. However, with pedals these days requiring a lot of power, cables getting longer, amplifiers getting louder and more gain, noises can be a problem for the modern guitarist. So a non-true bypass pedal on somebody's pedal board may not hear a difference, but say 2 or 3 of those pedals together and you will definitely be losing some frequency response. Now, of course, if it sounds good, it sounds good. If you don't have a problem with how it sounds, then you shouldn't change anything and you should just get on with doing the job. But if it is taking away from the tone you're trying to achieve, you can use a product called a true bypass loop. So I've got a little Lely looper switcher here. It's a true bypass loop. It's got an input and an output like every effects pedal does. However, instead of having a circuit board available when you activate it, we've got a send and a return loop. So in this example, I'm running the Lely and I've got 2 pedals in the effects loop. So my guitar comes in. When I turn the Lely on, it will send a signal from the send all the way out to the input of the Big Mud. It's a Tim Guitars Civil War Big Mud. Out of the Big Mud into the graphic EQ so I can do some tone changes. Out of the graphic EQ to the return of the Lely, and then my output signal, whether it's bypassed or on, comes from the output and it's running off to our 2 notes clean. So in this example, the graphic EQ is the pedal that is not true bypass, and as I tend to use Boss pedals, if I had 2 or 3 of them in the circuit at once, I can definitely hear a loss of treble and a little bit of loss of volume. So that's a good example to use. And of course the other option that is a really handy tool for a bypass loop is just using it to bypass 1 or 2 pedals at the same time. If you had a boost, a compressor, a reverb and a delay, plus these 2 pedals all together, and that was your go-to lead guitar sound, you want a 1-button activation, this is exactly what you can do. You wire them up in the little loop of the Lely, turn the Lely on and off, and when you do that, it'll have all of those pedals ready and available to you. So it's a pretty handy feature for people who run a lot of pedals or people who want to keep as clean a signal chain as possible. And of course, if you are using more than 1 pedal at once, it's a great master bypass. So to give you a sound example, my clean tone sounds like this. And I'm going to turn the Lely on. And it's just the Tim Guitars Big Mud. So I've got the gain turned all the way up. The tone is set at about 12:30, 1 o'clock. So while the Big Mud sounds great, you may want to add a second sound to it. So changing the EQ with the EQ pedal or activating a boost with the EQ pedal within this loop, it gives us another way of changing what we've got here without necessarily having another pedal on the board. So to do that, all we need to do is turn the EQ on. To go to what I've dialed in is just a slight mids boost. If you want to do a volume boost, you can go from this. Great option for a solo. And then because that's going to be louder and noisier, once you're off, that whole circuit is silent. So it's a great option for getting that EQ change and a volume boost change. If you wanted to drastically change the sound of the Big Mud, you could put even more of an accented mid scoop in to go from this volume up and back again. Now, obviously, if you had to turn both of these pedals on at once, you would have to get your feet very close together and stand on both of them at the same time, which can be a little tricky to do. Whereas if you go into a true bypass loop, it's off with one press. So. And you can stomp on that until the cows come home, and you're always going to have those two settings or those two pedals available every time you need it. So that's the two basic ideas of using a true bypass loop. To bypass a pedal that isn't true bypass, that it may be creating noise or maybe causing you to lose a little bit of frequency response. To turn multiple pedals on at one time with the press of one button. And the other good application of a true bypass loop would be if you had a really big pedal and it had to sit at the back of your pedal board, you could have a true bypass loop like this right at the front, and it makes it a lot easier to get to. So it's great on pedal boards, it's great in the studio, it's great live, and it can really simplify your life if you're running a few pedals at once. So there you go, the basic uses of a true bypass loop. Laley makes some of the best products in the world. I would love to have a whole pedal board full of their equipment. There are other brands of true bypass loopers available, and I'm going to show a few different styles in upcoming videos, but if you're interested in checking out one of these little Laleys, you can follow the link below. Don't forget to follow us on our social media to keep up to date with what's going on. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up, a share, a like, and subscribe. We do appreciate it. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.